It's game week, baby. We got college football being played this Saturday. Cade Smith and I juiced for this one, man. It's week 0. We respect, we honor, we appreciate, we value week 0. All right, in week 0, the game of week 0, to get us started, Kansas State, Iowa State, Aviva Stadium, Dublin, Ireland, ESPN, noon Eastern. K-State favored by 3. All right, across the, I don't know if it's across the pond, but it's international. Farmageddon. Hear me clearly. I don't think it's all that crazy that we could see one of these two teams winning the Big 12 because the Big 12's wide the heck open. You could see one of these teams being a college football playoff participant. These are the two model citizens of college football in my mind. I don't go super, super heavily to the portal. Both bring back quarterbacks. Both coaches that like build cultures. These are the two model citizens of college football in Iowa State and Kansas State. This game is going to, I'm so fired up we have this to start the college football season. Also, how about it being a conference game? Like, how different did it feel a year ago when Georgia Tech beat Florida State and we're like, not only was that big for Georgia Tech because of the fact that they beat a team that everyone picked to make the playoff, but Georgia Tech got an ACC win. Same thing for this team, for these teams, I should say, for K-State or Iowa State. Get a conference win to start the year in Dublin? I'll leave it at that. Big key in this game. Major key. Shout out DJ Khaled. Avery Johnson has got to play efficient football. Now, that is boring to say. It doesn't necessarily make a bunch of headlines. You're going to hear everyone and their mama say something like that. But here's why I think that's so important. Last year, Kansas State, a smooth 6-1 when Avery Johnson completes 60% of his passes. It should be noted, a year ago, Avery Johnson, it was his second year at Kansas State. It was his first year, though, in a new offense. Now, he committed and had a full year under Colin Klein, who's now the OC at A&M. He hadn't had a year in this offense yet. Last year was his first time doing it. So now, full second off season, I should say. How does that look? Does he look more comfortable? Because when you watch Kansas State offensively, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of motions. There's a lot put on on Avery Johnson's plate to make the Kansas State offense go correctly with the RPOs and the run. Like there's a lot on his plate, a lot of decisions to be made during the snap. Where is he at in his progress in that? Because I think the inefficiencies you saw last year were the learning curve for Avery Johnson in my mind. Like the processing the defense at the rate he needs to process it at within this offense with what they ask of him. This is so crucial for him to be efficient because Kansas State, they got some guys to get the football to. All right, Jace Brown, I think, is quietly one of the better wide receivers in all of the Big 12. Dylan Edwards, he's a running back, but they're going to line him up all over the place and use him in the jet sweep game, use him in the screen game. If Avery Johnson runs on time and is efficient, there's a reason why K-State is so successful in the win-loss column when he's on his P's and Q's. So Avery Johnson playing efficient football, we're going to know real early if this is a game that Kansas State is going to be able to play their style in. What I mean by that is I think Kansas State would like to score probably in the 30s if they can make that happen. That being the reality would mean that Avery Johnson isn't turning the football over, isn't stalling out drives because we miss on a easy throw on 3rd and 4. Like, that can't be the reality for Kansas State. Can't be the reality for them if they want to win this football game. Now, Iowa State, they're in an interesting spot. Rocco Becht, program guy through and through, one of the best quarterbacks in the country and definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, loses not one but 2 1,000-yard receivers from a year ago, both gone to the league. How do they reinvent the offense for A1 Rocco Becht? Now, I say reinvent the offense. You don't have to really reinvent so much like where you're going to attack a defense, but like you do have to reinvent where that production came from, in my mind. I think for Kansas State, when you look at what they are defensively, they're pretty gettable in the pass defense category. 85th in America a year ago. To me, this game comes down to Rocco Becht just being the adult in the room here. All right, hey, new group on the perimeter a little bit. Some guys that maybe aren't as calloused when it comes to playing college football. Rocco Becht's got to be steady hand, calming presence, all that, and allow those guys to play their best in this scenario. I think when you look at what they're going to be offensively, it's really crucial for Iowa State to win the early downs here. They want to play like the Corn Fred style of football. You know what I'm saying? They want to live in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. And when that happens, if you're Kansas State, you have to commit more attention to the ground game. Like if I'm Iowa State, I understand you want to throw the ball down the field with Rocco Becht, but I would lean on those big boys up front. Iowa State brings back 3 of their starting 5 offensive linemen. Lean on those guys. Lean on them, and when Kansas State overcommits, then you can manufacture some explosives. A big part of this for Iowa State is going to be the tight end game, okay? Because when they line up in 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 running back, that screams to a defense, we're running the ball. We're running the ball. All right, we got 2 big boys out here instead of receivers. We're running the football. When you go play action off of a look like that after running the ball so many times, you can dice someone down the middle, Rocco Becht hitting on that, and Kansas State overcommitting on those kind of situations. That's going to be, I think, how Iowa State can apply the pressure to a Kansas State. So winning on early downs for Iowa State, going back to my point here, I'd like to see them in like that 3.5 yards of carry range, 4 yards of carry range. That would be setting up those explosive plays down the field. And at that point, you put the pressure maybe on Avery Johnson to make a couple mistakes, to force a little bit, to get ahead of himself and play outside of himself. That'd be crucial for Iowa State. That's how they win this football game. For Kansas State, I think you got to win the early quarters. Because I told you, Rocco Becht breaking in some new talent on the perimeter. They don't want to play this game in the upper 20s, low 30s. They would like to, again, control the clock, make Avery Johnson stand on the sideline with a towel and some Gatorade, and have him watch them put together a 12-play drive that takes 7 minutes off the clock. If I'm Kansas State, we have the experience, more or less, with the skill players, with our quarterback, and I shouldn't say with the quarterback because Rocco Becht's super experienced. The experience with the quarterback, with his skill players, I should say, with the Jace Brown I already mentioned. They're going to, I think, try and be aggressive to force it on a Rocco Becht to just what I said, try and press a little bit on his end, try and push the ball downfield, which isn't really what I think the Iowa State offense in itself, right now at least, is built to do. I think it's going to be a little bit of some Bambi legs for the Iowa State offense if they get into that situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, not totally stable, little bit unsure of themselves. I don't think that's the kind of game they want to play. So what I just said, if we get to the second quarter and it's 14-zip Kansas State, I don't think a Matt Campbell team is capable of panicking, but I do think you could see them start to press a little bit, get outside of their game offensively, and that in itself I think would very much so favor a Kansas State. So what worries me in this game, what's going to decide my pick here, the Iowa State ground defense allowed 5.5 yards a carry a year ago. Not great. Not great. Now, here's the deal. People can change. I think Iowa State will be much better defensively this year, but how much better do you get from last year, averaging 5.5 yards a carry allowed, to this upcoming season, the first game of the year, when you're playing in a different country? Does that get fixed in week 0? I don't know that it does, especially against an offense now in Kansas State that what I just said is going to be very dynamic, going to give you a lot of different looks. To me, the difference in this game is the cat and mouse of Avery Johnson on the ground, Dylan Edwards in the option game. I think that's going to give Iowa State a little bit of trouble. I think this is a close game to a degree, but I do think that Kansas State wins 27-21, so they cover the spread, get their first win in conference play in week 0 in a foreign country. I just think it's too much Avery Johnson. I think they're too dynamic. I think there's too many ways for them to attack Iowa State for me to feel good about the Iowa State offense in this spot going back and forth with a year 2 Avery Johnson as a starting quarterback. So, let me know your thoughts, but we got Kansas State winning and covering for the first game of the college football season.